Yeah, that kinds to, and with regard to um, privacy and data security issues, um, there, 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 there are sort of roughly speaking three models on the planet right now. There is, uh, and you're an exception to this, but bear with me. That there is kind of a European model, which is you have to opt in. The person who's sharing data owns the data until they say you can use it for X, Y, or
Hmm.
Z.
Yep.
There's an American model, which for the most part has been kind of opt out. If
Hmm.
I grab your data, I can use it unless you tell me I can't.
Hmm.
And then there is a kind of Chinese model or state centric model,
Yep.
which says the state owns everything.
And you don't have a choice.
And you don't have a choice. And there's a tug of war around these things. What is your sense of the state of play?
Yeah, and I think I agree with those three models. I think that makes sense, and I do think we actually fall relatively neatly into that model because we are, as I mentioned, very intentionally opt in. People have to choose to participate in a Wicket system at any venue or any place, and they can opt out at any point. At any point they can say, I want to opt out of this, and all of the images of them, all of the data of them is immediately wiped from the system, and so that they can opt out at any point. I do think I think this is an evolving landscape, as I'm sure you see and you follow. And I think it depends on what information you're sharing, and which of that information is, opt in, and which information people are comfortable giving. I do think you alluded to this. I think attitudes have changed even in the 4 or 5 years we've been doing this, since we first launched at the Cleveland Browns in 2020 to now. We just crossed 6 million biometric transactions this month, and across nearly 1 million people. That it's people are getting more and more comfortable sharing this and trusting the organizations that they're sharing it with, and again, with the understanding that it is opt in and opt out at any point, so they feel like they have control over that information.
Yeah, so there are two sort of ways I'd like to follow up on that question because um, on the one hand, you talk about 6 million uses, and it seems to me, as a casual observer, though somebody has a little exposure to this area, that's you're in early days, you're doing
Yes,
well, you're getting a lot of people
absolutely.
there, but the idea that somebody's face, or just like we talked about their retina or some other kind of
Hmm.
biometric
Biometric indicator.
characteristic, right? Um, it becomes their ID
Hmm.
seems inevitable. It
Hmm.
seems that I mean, when bring up China again, go to China and talk to people and say, why don't you like coming to the U.S.? And they'll say, well, you guys still use money, and and it's because you can't go into most Chinese stores now and use money. You're using some kind of Bluetooth transaction with some
Yeah,
kind of signature,
interesting.
and in some places it's starting to be your face. And I noticed in your website that you talk about that it's possible to purchase things with your face.
Yes.
And
Yes.
well, one could imagine, you know I don't want, who needs a wallet? I don't, I'm going to go out, and if I'm, in a couple of years, whatever I'm doing, all I have to do is show up in front of a camera, and the camera says, "Oh, it's him. This is his bank account." If he says yes, it comes out of the bank account. It seems like the upside is pretty unlimited in applications for this kind of technology. Is that the trajectory that you guys are counting on and seeing?
It is. It absolutely is, and I think you're right. I think again, we're very laser focused on sports and live event venues. That's sort of our niche. We're not in the airports. We're not in healthcare facilities, et cetera. But within the sports and live events niche, we see any place that you need to either prove identity or have some sort of token to move forward, whether that's a purchase or a credential or a ticket or whatever. That should be your face. The CTO at Mercedes-Benz Stadium sort of has this vision and talks about how fans get off the subway and they get to their seat with a beer and a hot dog, and they've never taken anything out of their pocket, right? They've walked into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They've walked over to a grab and go market. They've picked up their own hot dog and they've filled their own beer and they've walked to their seat and they've never taken anything out of their pocket. And they've been able to prove they're 21. They've been able to make that purchase. They've been able to prove they have a ticket. They may even have gone in and out of a club, and proven that they have access to that. And they've never taken anything out of their wallet, anything out of their pocket. And it just makes that entire experience frictionless and easy and lets people focus on what they're there to do, right? Which is to enjoy the action on the field or enjoy interacting with other people that are there. And that's where we're moving to. And we've got a lot of the pieces in place. And yes, it's very much still in the early days and on the upswing. And the Browns are great. They get, but at this point they get 15 to 20% of their fans using it on a given day, game day. It's not 80% yet. But we're seeing that increasing. We're seeing that growth.
Yeah, but who would have thought the dog pound would end up being the laboratory of AI, right? That nobody had that on their bingo card. Also, I mean, it strikes me that, you're striking a blow for feminism here, because throughout my life, I've heard women complain that women's outfits don't have pockets. And you're getting to the point where you don't need pockets.
There you go.
So it's leveling the playing field in an important way.